Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. This is the second in the survival series, and a lot's changed in a very short time since I made the previous series. This is survival. Prepping has in some ways gotten outdated, which is why I'm making this. And this episode is going to focus on one that's changed a lot. Originally, I talked about, rules of three and food and water and shelter being important. And it really didn't matter a whole lot, not tremendously, because you always had this option of bugging out versus bugging in, and you had this option of, having some little place somewhere where you could stick around and just tide things over until whatever disaster is mitigated. And for that reason, you could prepare for various problems. But that's changed. Now there's a lot more specific problems that are affecting the whole world, really. Government overreach and really public consensus for government overreach has become a global thing. So this doesn't just apply now to the United States. It doesn't just apply to people who are worried about a very specific problem or a series of broad problems. It applies to people who are worried about a very notable problem that I shouldn't even have to mention. It's not that I'm afraid to mention it because it's probably going to be a bit shoot exclusive anyway, but simply on the grounds that if you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe this video isn't for you. But a lot's happened, as you can see this year. So the big thing I want to focus on in this episode is land, because originally, I considered that as a separate thing from, a list of needs. It was more about, you could manage to tide things over in suburbia. You could even prep in a rural situation by having a bug out location already picked. And now that's changed dramatically. Now you really need to move to the area that you are considering, holding over until disaster mitigated, which I don't know if disaster is going to be mitigated really. I mean, we might be looking at kind of a reversion to pre-industrial existence pretty soon. So that's step one is you really do need to start looking at land now, and you need to start looking at it tactily. It's not just a question of is it far away from population densities where this government overreach and this public consensus for government overreach is at its highest. Instead, you actually need to start looking at places that are more isolated and moving there. And I really mean that. Make a community, find people that you have things in common with. Pod schooling, for example, I'll bring that up in a later episode. Those kinds of mindsets, and move already. Like you need to. If you are in a city, get out. If you're in a suburban setting, get out. You don't need to be there. The phone calls coming from inside the house, that whole little urban legend, it's already getting really bad. And both supply chains, the inability to import and export goods, the overall crumbling of of urban infrastructures, and the overwhelming support for just an intense kind of localized fascism that we're seeing globally. That's what's nuts. Everybody is clamoring to be protected, and we all know what that means. When everybody's clamoring for that, it's not a good sign. So look for land where you can grow an adequate amount of food and learn how to do that. That's one. That's super important. Move there, preferably in a way where you and your community can be together. That's two. Three, get used to not having certain creature comforts that you were accustomed to in this previous mode of existence, assuming that you live in suburbia or an urban area. And lastly, and this is sad, but it's a big one, look at that land, if you haven't bought it yet, in a tactical, tactical, couldn't think of the word, in a tactical matter. And what I mean by that is don't just look at acreage and, amount of forest versus amount of field and things like that. look at specific areas and say, this would be a good spot to build a house because it's behind, faces a hill, so it would be harder for us to get snuck up on. Like, I've made a very quick transition, very short span of time to paranoid kind of prepper. And that's because things are getting really scary. You know, we have people being turned in by their relatives for wrong think and things of that sort. It's getting a lot worse. Things are heating up, and it's going to get bad soon, very soon. This isn't one of those things where it's like, you know, you can watch these prepper videos from 20 years ago, and they're like, very soon there's going to be an economic crisis, and no. But things are heating up now. Things are going to get bad soon. You should, next video I'll talk about things you should buy. But yeah, get ready, and you need to move now. You need to look at rural properties if you haven't already now, and get them, because soon they'll cost a fortune because there is going to be more demand, and additionally, it's going to become very inhospitable to even live in an area that's not isolated where you can't hide if necessary. So that's all I got. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.